Hello guys, welcome to Dr. Devil. So if you are new to the channel, we post amazing revenge stories daily. If you don't want to miss such more stories, please subscribe to us. Moving to our today's story posted by you/P3KVI. Grandpa beats pedophiles, the rest of the men may have finished the job. Backstory: my grandpa went to prison in his late teens, early 20s. He ended up spending 11 years there. This was a prison in the 30s and 40s, so to say it wasn't easy is putting it mildly. Anyway, he came out with a terrible temper and was more prone to violence. Characters of the story: Grandpa GP, Grandma GM, Abuser POS. Story: this all happened in the early 60s in the rural Midwest. GP and my grandma raised their kids the only way they knew how, picking vegetables as migrant farmers. In most of these little towns they lived in, the cops didn't come around. The people in town just usually handled problems in their way. In one of these towns there was a POS who had become known frequently sexually abused his daughters, and then would sell them to his friends in a town they lived in before. It was kind of an open secret, but no one had proof. So most of the parents, my grandparents included, just told their kids they couldn't go to that house. One day POS comments to another man about how GP was sitting on a gold mine with all those pretty young daughters he had. The guy comes and tells GP what POS said, and GP puts out word for the guy to stop by that afternoon. POS comes over and GP is talking to him and says he should come over for supper that night and asks what his favorite meal is. At this point POS doesn't know GP knows what he said. The guy tells him fried chicken and fried potatoes. GP says, well, I'll get my wife to make it, and you come back over in a few hours. After he leaves, GM, who is visibly shaking, says she doesn't want to make this meal and asks him what he's doing, and he says, honey, make it. Every man deserves a last meal. Few hours later, POS comes back and GM has made a spread. She always was a great cook. At this point, all their kids were at my GM's parents' house. POS makes himself a big plate and digs in. He's making small talk with GP the whole time. After he finished off his second plate, GP asks him did he get his fill? POS says, hell yeah, you're a lucky man. Your wife is a great cook. And GP hit him. GP beat him through the house and onto the front porch. As he was beating him on the front porch, most of the other fathers in the area came by to watch. When GP was done, the man wasn't moving much and the porch was soaked in blood. GM told us that the 6 months that they lived there after this incident, she never could get the stains completely out. At this point, a few of the other fathers walked into the yard and said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of this, and they grabbed POS and dragged him to one of their cars. Now Grandma never could tell us if the guy died or not, but POS's family was still there when my grandparents and their kids moved to the next town and still hadn't seen him. My guess is if he didn't die from his injuries, the other fathers had themselves a little party that night. TL, Dr. Pedophile makes a sexual comment about my grandfather's kids. Grandpa feeds him his last meal and then beats him near death/to death. Here are some comments. First comment by J Winter 27. Holy, your grandpa is a legend. Second comment by Logical Overdrive. Every man deserves a last meal. I kinda stopped for a minute to process how badass that line is. Third comment by Mailbox Karma 99. Do not mess with a man's family, because that man might beat you up. Fourth comment by Fine Bloom. Last meal was written by P3KVI. Great story. All pedos deserve this treatment if they act on their desires. Before moving ahead, if you like the revenge, please hit the like button and comment your views about the story or revenge. Now moving to the second story posted by you/Wigglewagon. Supervisor breaks the rules, so I burn down his life. Several years ago, I worked as a local delivery driver for a steel processing plant. We would take stock units of the plate and structural steel and process them into parts out customers could use. Some processes, such as painting, would go to a third-party vendor and then come back to us for shipment to the customer. I worked on a set routine. deliver to the paint shop in the morning, and bring back the orders painted the day before. While that trailer was being unloaded, I would hook another trailer and deliver finished orders to a customer about 70 miles away from the shop. This delivery had a hard appointment time of 2 p.m. and I could not miss it. When I returned after making that delivery, I would finish the day with short deliveries or pickups as needed, and then go home. It was an easy, stress-free job as long as I stuck to a routine and made my appointments on time. Communication between departments was poor though, and it disrupted the entire process. For example, the scheduling department might think a certain production run had been finished and was gone for outside processing, when in reality the production department hadn't even started the order yet. I spent a lot of afternoons driving around in an empty truck chasing phantom orders that I knew I had never delivered because some office drone wanted me to check and make sure, or running hot orders out to vendors that were overlooked during my morning trip. Enter my main antagonist, one of the first shift production supervisors. I was constantly butting heads with him because he forever tried to hold up my truck for last-second add-ons. This wouldn't have been a big deal except that they almost always interfered with my 2 p.m. delivery, the one I had to be on time for. I kept explaining that I could do his errands in the mornings or afternoons, but he couldn't mess with the middle of my day. He was arrogant and condescending with everyone, but he took a special dislike toward me because I wasn't in his chain of command and wouldn't bend over backward to accommodate his wants. It didn't help that my direct superior was a milquetoast little man that avoided conflict at any cost. I ended up taking a lot of heat from this production supervisor, even though he couldn't punish me for meeting my other work obligations. Things finally came to a head when the supervisor came up to shipping with a large order that needed to go to paint. I was about to leave for my 2 p.m. customer and told him so, but I had room left on the truck. If he wanted to load his parts on, I would deliver them on my way back from my primary delivery. This wasn't good enough for him. These parts were behind schedule and had to get painted immediately. If I delivered them in the afternoon, they wouldn't get painted until the following day, which would put him further behind. To top it off, this order required a special marine-grade paint that had been mistakenly delivered to our company location instead of the paint shop, and it all needed to go ASAP. We began our usual back and forth. I had a delivery appointment. I could do what he wanted, but I couldn't do it on his schedule. After a heated conversation where he devolved into rudeness and name-calling of a nature unbecoming of his position, he said fine. I'll take it myself in the other truck. In addition to the tractor trailer that I drove, we had a smaller delivery truck on hand for occasional use. He decided to drive it on the down low, loading up and heading out without telling our shipping department. This would have been a grand idea, but driving either truck requires a commercial driver's license, which this supervisor did not have. I pointed this out to him, to which he replied that he was only going up the road, and everything would be fine. I pointed out that he didn't have a hazardous materials endorsement to transport the paint. Again, he was just going up the road, and I needed to shut the hell up, write him out directions to the paint shop, and get out of the way since I was ducking useless anyway. So did just that and wrote him out a perfect set of turn-by-turn directions. Well, this paint shop was about 30 miles up the road. But I knew, and he didn't, that about 15 miles up the road was a DOT way station that always had at least 2 state troopers inside, and at least one of them was a commercial enforcement officer. The truck this supervisor wanted to drive wasn't equipped with an easy pass transponder that would allow him to bypass the scale, and I knew given his already demonstrated ignorance he wouldn't know that he was required to pull in. I figured he would blow right past, and that one of those troopers would put down his coffee long enough to chase him down and find out why. To my great delight, that is exactly what happened. The troopers saw him drive past and pulled him over. Then they escorted him back to the way station for a thorough inspection. For those unfamiliar, the transportation industry is highly regulated. Some might say it's overregulated, but anyone that makes it a career knows it's best to follow the laws or face some serious consequences. The supervisor didn't know any of this and was like a lamb to the slaughter. The DOT inspector ripped him to pieces. Among the biggest infractions he was cited for: No CDL. $2,500 fine, up to $10,000 to the company. Misdemeanor charges, 90 days suspended driver's license. No hazmat endorsement, no documenting paperwork for the hazmat. No placards identify the vehicle as carrying hazardous material. $50,000 fine to the company, more if it results in illness, injury, or death to another person. As a bonus, when the trooper escorted him back to the weigh station, the scale master saw him talking on his cell phone. The dude was making a panic call to the company manager. Using a handheld device is also a big no-no. That's another $2,500, $10,000 to $11,000 to the company. The truck was put out of service at the weigh station until it had the proper bill of lading, hazmat paperwork, and a driver with a valid license. The supervisor wasn't allowed to leave himself until someone came to get him. Needless to say, he lost his job immediately. I suspected that would happen, so I hung around the shipping office after my afternoon delivery. I got to witness his walk of shame as he was escorted out of the building. I was never officially told just how much his fines were, but an educated guess puts it at thousands to him personally, and potentially close to $100,000 to the company. I do know the company tried to sue him in civil court to recoup their losses, although I don't know the outcome. I left to take another job shortly after. I figured that even though I wasn't the one at fault, my role in the fiasco wouldn't be looked upon in kind of fashion. The best part though was that after months of watching him swagger around wearing a big hubris cowboy hat, I was the one that got to swat it off his head. Here are some comments. First comment by PN_Gwyn. Just how stupid can a person be? Also, I hope the grin you had from his duck-up didn't leave permanent marks. What an idiot. Second comment by Catacombs3. Must have been glorious to witness. I am glad you got out of that job though. Those associated with the incident are often chosen as scapegoats, no matter whether they were to blame or not. Third comment by Tenebralopo. This reminds me of my current supervisor. He wants us to carry fire extinguishers, but without any proper way to transport them. Fourth comment by 49orth. That is a hard lesson for an ignorant a-hole to learn. You're a good teacher. Fifth comment by Mimpisketty. I have a CDL, started grinning when OP mentioned the scale, and no transponder. Nice. Guys, if you like revenge stories and want more such stories, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Moving to the final story of the video posted by you/Silvawolf. That time I accidentally worked for the Russian mafia and proxy blew up a dumpster with bread dough. I'm a professional baker and have worked for various companies developing recipes and the like. I found a job at a local grocery store, working super early mornings on their pastries for the day. There were usually a few other people there, one of whom was a mixer. Mixers typically follow a spec sheet with the weights of all the ingredients they need to batch mix. It's kind of mindless work and doesn't require much thought. He was a young guy, fresh out of his teens. We became fast coworker friends and enjoyed chatting it up about baking, and I'd help him put our supply order away. Good times. One day, a woman with a thick Russian accent came in and handed us business cards. She told us whatever we're getting paid, her company would double it if we came to work for them. I scheduled an interview, thinking this would be a great opportunity for me. It was a new grocery store concept, like a glitzy-glammy European-style Costco, whatever that means. When I went in for the interview, the place was literally still under construction. I met their lead baker, and we hit it off right away. He warned me that the big boss had interesting tastes, and we'd need to work with that. No biggie. More money, let's go. They hired us both and, over the next several months, it was a really interesting and fun experience. The big boss, thick, burly Russian man, to the point and perpetually angry, wanted this place to be like Costco mass production of quality pastries. They were bringing in crazy amounts of new equipment, including folders, shapers, and injectors that were easily worth millions. We didn't have much equipment to start, and we were doing a lot of mixing in trash cans. Remember my mixer buddy? Well, he was working on the bread dough, using spec sheets provided by our lead baker. Over time they were bringing on more staff, and it was a lot of fun developing new recipes, experimenting with ratios, and figuring out how to get over constraints for the types of products that boss wanted. Did I mention he was an a-hole? Oh yeah. When he was reviewing some cheesecake I had made, he said, "Good job, sweetie." I came back with "Miss, ma'am," or "My name is fine." He scowled at me, and from that point on he treated me like garbage. We brought other women on staff. I watched him hit on them. Some of the others were cool with being sexually harassed, I guess. This place was paying top dollar, and had to get in good with the big boss, right? So the stage is set here. Boss quickly turned his business into a game of survivor. He'd fire people on the spot for whatever reason. One day, one of the people he sacked was our lead baker. It came as a surprise since he was developing all the recipes we'd be using. I inherited a lot of his notes, and his development work was divided between me and the mixer. So this whole time Mixer was kissing Big Boss bum pretty hard. He was seeing an open position with the lead baker gone, and quickly became invested in the idea of him running the bakery show and making some serious money. At the same time, my relationship with Big Boss was quickly declining. For an example, I had him sample some cinnamon rolls I had made, and he came back with, "I hate these, they're terrible." "What do you not like?" "We can change anything about them. The dough, the filling, the icing, I don't know, I just don't like them." On a hunch, I gave some cinnamon rolls from the same batch to another lady there he had eyes for, and asked her if she'd present them to him as her own. She offered him the same product I had given him minutes before, and he loved it. Anyway, I noticed that my notes were out of place one day, and a coworker informed me my mixer buddy was stealing my work and presenting it as his own. He was also approaching me and asking a lot of baking questions, which was fine, but I knew that his knowledge of industrial ratio baking was mediocre at best. He was a mixer. Following a recipe is all he knew how to do. Knowing this, I made a decoy copy of my notes, but this time I put really, really awful recipes, with huge amounts of salt or yeast. Anyone who knew how to build a recipe could probably look at it and go, "Whoa, that's a lot." Not Mixer Buddy. My original plan was to leave this in an obvious spot as bait, and let him steal the awful recipes, but Big Boss had other plans. We sat down for a pre-launch meeting, and he informed me I wasn't going to be working in the bakery anymore, and being relegated to store setup. The mixer was going to be taking over as the lead baker. Guess all that bum kissing really paid off, and I was to give him all my notes so far. "No problem, boss." A day later was when the fun really began. Mixer mixed up a huge batch of super bum salty cake batter, and I heard Big Boss screaming at him about way too much salt. That's not even where the fun begins. As we were setting up an industrial quantity of baking equipment, we had to test the larger quantity mixing machines, and did a test run for some bread dough, with my decoy recipe that had triple the yeast and sugar. As it didn't come out right, Mixer had to throw it away. His choice? The dumpster is out back in the dead heat of summer. Hundreds of pounds of dough. The fun thing about massive amounts of bread dough is that it doesn't magically stop rising if you throw it away, especially in a hot dumpster. Few hours later, I spied out back to see Mixer Buddy shoveling this massive blob of dough into trash bags that had exploded from the dumpster like an uncovered blender spewing out a yeast-laden smoothie. Sweet revenge. Now about the mafia thing, this store was really strange. They had been ordering doubles of all the crazy industrial baking equipment and storing them in the back. We had nowhere to put any of this. I also looked up the company they were subcontracted under, and it was to a dead address in Russia. Big Boss also had armed security guards everywhere. This was a grocery store, mind you. I had a feeling that this company was more of a front for laundering a bunch of money. I eventually was fired by Big Boss, which was great because I had been job hunting, full well knowing this business was a sinking ship. I had a new job lined up already. They had their grand opening, did business for 3 months, then closed. RIP Mixer. TLDR, I was ordered to give a coworker some recipes I had tweaked to fail prior, and a dumpster blew up. Here are some comments. First comment by Thesangeli. That dumpster photo made me laugh so hard, I almost cried. Second comment by Jessa63. I loved reading this and your writing style was really captivating. These types of posts will never go stale. Glad to hear that Mixer's promotion was toast. Third comment by Carsultation. He hated you because you politely asked for professional courtesy. Great story and ending. I don't know whose job it would be to clean that dumpster, or how you would do it, but it doesn't look fun. Fourth comment by Coder Joe 1. Great story, so glad you caught on and subverted their sexist ways. Some jobs are too good to be true. Thank you guy for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit the like button and comment below. If you don't want to miss such more videos, please don't forget to subscribe us.